The Grimaldiro mansion glowed with Christmas warmth, despite the blizzard building outside. Emily Turner balanced on the third step of the grand staircase, carefully weaving silver garland through the mahogany banister. Her fingers moved quickly, efficiently, the way they always did when Richard Caldwell was watching. And he was always watching. "Higher!" Richard barked from below, arms crossed over his pressed vest. Mr. Grimaldiro expects perfection, not amateur attempts. Emily bit the inside of her cheek and adjusted the garland upward. She had been working at the mansion for 3 months now. 3 months of Richard's constant criticism, his cold eyes tracking every movement she made. The other staff had warned her quietly during her first week. "Keep your head down around him. Don't make mistakes. Don't give him reasons." She had tried. God, she had tried. The mansion was breathtaking tonight. Even she had to admit that. Every corner sparkled with holiday decorations. White lights draped across doorways. Poinsettias lined the hallways in crystal vases. The scent of pine and cinnamon filled the air from the enormous tree in the main living room. Everything prepared for the Christmas Eve dinner Nicholas Grimaldiro would host for his business associates. Emily had never met most of them. She saw them occasionally, men in dark suits who spoke in low voices and never smiled. Men who made the other staff move faster, quieter, nearly invisible. "The vase," Richard snapped. "Move it to the center of that table. Now." Emily climbed down carefully and crossed to the console table where an antique Italian vase sat. She knew it was expensive. Everything in this house was expensive. The kind of wealth she had only seen in magazines before taking this job. She lifted the vase with both hands, feeling the weight of it, the delicate craftsmanship of the painted porcelain. 3 months without a single mistake. 3 months of proving herself despite Richard's obvious disdain. Her foot caught the edge of the garland she had dropped earlier. Time slowed. The vase slipped from her grip. She lunged forward, fingers grasping at air. The sound of it shattering against the marble floor echoed through the entrance hall like a gunshot. Silence crashed down afterward. Heavy, suffocating silence. Emily stared at the broken pieces scattered across the pristine floor. Blue and white porcelain fragments mixed with the silver garland. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "You clumsy, incompetent fool." Richard's voice was quiet. That made it worse somehow. Emily had heard him yell at other staff members before. This cold fury was different. "I'm sorry," she said immediately, dropping to her knees. "I'm so sorry. I'll clean it up right now. Do you have any idea what that vase was worth?" Richard stepped closer, looming over her. 17th century. Brought from Milan by Mr. Grimaldiro's grandfather. Irreplaceable. Emily's hands shook as she tried to gather the larger pieces. "I didn't mean to. It was an accident, please." "An accident?" Richard's laugh was harsh. "You've been nothing but a liability since the day you arrived. I told Mr. Grimaldiro hiring someone so young was a mistake. 19 years old. No references worth mentioning. No family to vouch for character." The words stung more than they should have. Emily kept her eyes on the broken porcelain. "I'll pay for it. However long it takes, I'll pay for it." Richard crouched down, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "With what? Your pathetic salary? It would take you 5 years to cover the value of what you just destroyed." Emily fought back tears. She wouldn't cry, not in front of him. "Please, just let me fix this. I'll work extra hours. I'll do anything." "You'll leave." Richard stood abruptly. "Right now. Get out of this house." Emily's head snapped up. "What?" "You heard me." Richard smoothed his vest with sharp, precise movements. "You're fired. I want you off this property immediately." "But..." Emily scrambled to her feet. "It's Christmas Eve. There's a blizzard outside. I don't have..." "Not my concern." Richard turned toward the coat closet near the front door. "You should have thought about that before destroying priceless property." Panic clawed at Emily's throat. Outside, wind howled against the windows. Snow had been falling heavily for hours. The weather reports had warned everyone to stay indoors. Temperature was already below 0, with wind chill making it dangerous. "Mr. Caldwell, please." Emily hated how her voice shook. "I can't go out in that. Just let me wait until morning, or until the storm passes. I said now. Richard pulled open the front door. Arctic air blasted into the entrance hall. Snow swirled in, dusting the marble floor. Unless you'd prefer I call the police and report you for destruction of property. Emily's blood ran cold. She couldn't afford legal trouble. Couldn't afford anything, really. This job was all she had. No family to fall back on since her parents died 3 years ago. No savings worth mentioning after constantly moving between cheap apartments and cheaper jobs. Her voice cracked. My coat. At least let me get my coat from the staff room. You'll leave with what you're wearing. Richard grabbed her thin uniform jacket from the hook near the door and thrust it at her. Take this and go. Now. Emily's fingers closed around the jacket automatically. It was barely thicker than the uniform itself. Nothing that would protect her from the storm raging outside. She looked past Richard through the open door. Visibility was nearly zero. White sheets of snow fell so thick she couldn't see past the front steps. Please, she tried one more time. I'm sorry about the vase. I'll do anything to make it right, but don't make me go out there. Richard's hand closed around her upper arm. His grip was hard enough to bruise. I'm done listening to excuses from staff who can't follow simple instructions. He pulled her toward the door. Emily tried to resist, but Richard was stronger, taller, using his body to force her out onto the front steps. The cold hit her like a physical blow. Wind tore at her hair, her thin uniform. Snow immediately soaked through her clothes. Don't come back, Richard said. Then he slammed the door shut. The lock clicked with terrible finality. Emily stood frozen on the front steps for several seconds, her mind refusing to process what just happened. Then survival instinct kicked in. She couldn't stay here. Couldn't bang on the door and beg. Richard had made his decision clear. The main gate. If she could reach the main gate at the end of the long driveway, maybe she could call someone. Maybe the guard station had a phone she could use. Emily pulled the thin jacket tighter around herself and stepped off the stairs into the snow. It came up past her ankles immediately. Her uniform shoes, meant for polished indoor floors, offered no protection. Cold seeped through within seconds. She started walking. Each step was harder than the last. The wind pushed against her, trying to force her back. Snow stung her face, got into her eyes, her mouth. She couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. How far to the gate? A quarter mile? Half mile? She had never walked it before. Always took the staff entrance near the back of the property. Her teeth started chattering. Her fingers went numb first, then her toes. She wrapped her arms around herself and kept walking. Kept putting one foot in front of the other because stopping meant freezing, and freezing meant dying. The driveway stretched endlessly ahead. Or maybe she was walking in circles. Everything looked the same through the curtain of white. Trees appeared like dark ghosts on either side. The wind howled louder, drowning out every other sound. Emily's legs began to feel heavy. Distant alarm bells rang in the back of her mind. Hypothermia. She had read about it once. Your body starts shutting down, redirecting blood to vital organs. Extremities go first. Then confusion sets in. Then you stop feeling cold at all, which is when you're really in trouble. She stumbled over something hidden beneath the snow. Her knees hit the ground hard. Pain shot up her legs but felt muted, far away. She tried to stand. Her legs wouldn't cooperate properly. Get up. Get up. Get up. Emily forced herself upright, using a nearby tree for support. The bark was rough under her numb fingers. She clung to it for a moment, trying to catch her breath, trying to figure out which direction to go. Movement was getting harder. Her body felt sluggish, unresponsive. She couldn't feel her feet anymore. Couldn't feel her hands. Just bone-deep cold that seemed to reach into her chest, squeezing her lungs. Maybe just rest for a minute. Just 1 minute. Emily sank down against the tree trunk. The snow beneath her was almost soft. Almost comfortable. Her eyes drifted closed. Inside the mansion, Nicholas Grimaldiero pushed through the front door at exactly 7:15. He was late returning from his meeting downtown. The roads had been a nightmare. Visibility near zero, but his driver had managed to get them back safely. He shrugged out of his coat, snow dusting the shoulders of his black suit. The entrance hall was immaculate as always. Decorations perfect. Everything in its place for tonight's dinner. But something felt wrong. Nicholas couldn't put his finger on it immediately. He scanned the hall, the staircase, the pristine marble floors. Then it clicked. No coffee. Every evening at 7, Emily brought him coffee in his study. Ethiopian blend, no sugar, exactly the right temperature. She had never missed it once in 3 months. It was the kind of small, reliable detail Nicholas noticed. The kind that made him remember why he had approved her hiring, despite Richard's objections. "Mr. Caldwell," Nicholas called out. Richard appeared from the direction of the kitchen, his expression carefully neutral. "Mr. Grimaldiro, welcome back." "Where's Emily?" Richard's eye twitched almost imperceptibly. "Miss Turner requested to leave early this evening. Personal matters." Nicholas studied his house manager. Something in Richard's tone was off. Too smooth. Too prepared. She didn't mention anything this morning. It was rather sudden. Richard clasped his hands behind his back. She seemed quite insistent about leaving before the storm worsened. Nicholas pulled out his phone, checking the time again. 7:17. Emily lived in a small apartment 40 minutes away by commuter train. The trains had stopped running an hour ago due to weather. How did she get home? I'm not certain. She left through the front entrance. The front entrance. Staff always used the side door near the kitchen. Nicholas's jaw tightened. When exactly did she leave? Perhaps 45 minutes ago? 45 minutes. In this storm. Something cold settled in Nicholas's chest that had nothing to do with the weather outside. "Luca," he called out sharply. His second-in-command appeared within seconds from the security office down the hall. Luca Pellegrini had worked for Nicholas for 8 years. He could read his boss's moods better than anyone. Problem? Security footage from the entrance hall. Last hour. Now. Luca's eyebrows rose fractionally, but he didn't question it. On it. They moved to the security office, a small room lined with monitors showing different angles of the property. Luca pulled up the entrance hall camera and started scrolling backward through the footage. "There," Nicholas said, pointing at the screen. The timestamp read 6:30. The footage showed Emily on her knees, gathering pieces of what looked like a broken vase. Richard standing over her. Even without audio, the body language was clear. Richard was angry. Luca increased the playback speed. They watched Richard pull Emily to the front door. Watched him push her outside into the storm. Watched him close and lock the door behind her. The office went deadly quiet. "That was 45 minutes ago," Luca said slowly. "In this storm." Nicholas was already moving. He kicked off his dress shoes and grabbed the thermal coat from the emergency closet. Luca was right behind him, pulling on boots and grabbing a high-powered flashlight. "Call the medical team," Nicholas ordered as they reached the front door. "Have them standing by." He yanked the door open. The storm had worsened, if that was possible. Wind nearly tore the door from his grip. Snow swirled in thick waves, reducing visibility to almost nothing. "She would have headed for the gate," Luca shouted over the wind. They ran down the driveway, flashlight beam cutting through the white darkness. Nicholas's heart pounded against his ribs. 45 minutes. In this temperature, with inadequate clothing, she could already be dead. No, he refused to accept that. Emily was strong, resilient. He had seen it in the way she handled Richard's constant criticism without complaint, the way she worked efficiently without cutting corners, the way she smiled at other staff members even when exhausted, the way her blue eyes had met his on her first day, clear and direct. When she thanked him for the job opportunity, most people couldn't hold his gaze. She had. There. Luca's voice cut through his thoughts. The flashlight beam illuminated a dark shape against a tree about 50 feet ahead. They ran toward it, snow making each step difficult. Emily was slumped against the trunk, head tilted forward, snow gathering on her shoulders and hair. Her lips had a blue tint. Her skin was pale, almost gray. Nicholas dropped to his knees beside her, pressing 2 fingers against her neck. Pulse. Faint, but present. "Emily." He shook her shoulder gently. No response. He shook harder. "Emily, can you hear me?" Her eyelids fluttered but didn't open. "She's hypothermic," Luca said grimly. "We need to move fast." Nicholas didn't hesitate. He slipped his arms under her knees and shoulders, lifting her against his chest. She weighed almost nothing. The cold radiating from her body was frightening. They ran back toward the mansion. Luca ahead with the flashlight, Nicholas carrying Emily, holding her as close as possible to share body heat. Her head lolled against his shoulder. He could barely feel her breathing. 45 minutes. Richard had left her out here for 45 minutes. Something dark and violent churned in Nicholas's chest. A rage he usually kept under iron control. Richard would answer for this. But first, Emily needed to survive. They burst through the front doors. Maria Santos, the senior housekeeper, was waiting in the entrance hall. Her eyes widened when she saw Emily's condition. "Guest suite," Nicholas ordered. "Warmest room. Get every blanket we have. Call Dr. Morrison and tell him hypothermia, possible frostbite. Get him here now." Maria moved immediately, years of working for Nicholas telling her when not to ask questions. Other staff members appeared, drawn by the commotion. They scattered at Nicholas's sharp gestures, moving to carry out orders. Nicholas took the stairs 2 at a time, Emily's cold body pressed against his chest. The guest suite adjacent to his private wing was the warmest room in the house, with a large fireplace and the best heating system. He laid her carefully on the bed. Her lips were definitely blue now. Shaking had stopped, which was worse. It meant her body was shutting down. Maria appeared with an armful of thermal blankets. "Dr. Morrison is 15 minutes out. He said to start gradual warming." Nicholas began removing Emily's snow-soaked jacket and shoes. Her skin was like ice beneath his fingers. He wrapped her in layer after layer of blankets, tucking them around her carefully. The fireplace roared to life as Luca got it going. Heat began filling the room slowly. "Out," Nicholas said quietly to everyone except Maria. "Now." The room cleared. Nicholas sat on the edge of the bed, watching Emily's face for any sign of consciousness. Her breathing was shallow. Pulse still too faint. "Is she going to be okay?" Maria asked softly. Nicholas's jaw was tight. "She has to be." 15 minutes felt like hours. Finally, Dr. Morrison arrived, his medical bag in hand. He examined Emily quickly, efficiently. Checked her vitals, her core temperature, looked at her fingers and toes for frostbite. "She got lucky," he said finally. "Another 10 minutes and we'd be looking at permanent damage or worse. As it is, she'll need close monitoring for the next 48 hours. Any sign of confusion, irregular heartbeat, or if her temperature drops again, call me immediately." "I'm not leaving her," Nicholas said. Dr. Morrison nodded as if he expected that answer. "Keep her warm. When she wakes up, warm liquids, nothing too hot. Her body needs to recover gradually." After the doctor left, Nicholas pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. He watched the steady rise and fall of Emily's chest under the blankets. Watched color slowly return to her face as her body temperature climbed back toward normal. Downstairs, he knew Richard was still in the house, still going about his duties as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't left a 19-year-old girl to freeze to death over a broken vase. Nicholas pulled out his phone and sent a single text to Luca. "Gather all staff in the main hall. Now." It was time for Richard Caldwell to learn exactly who he worked for, and what happened to people who harmed those under Nicholas Grimaldiro's protection. Emily's consciousness returned in fragments. Warmth first, wrapping around her like something alive, then softness beneath her body, so different from the hard snow and rough tree bark. Voices speaking in low tones somewhere nearby. The crackle of fire. Her eyelids felt heavy, glued shut. She forced them open slowly, blinking against light that seemed too bright, even though it was just the gentle glow of a bedside lamp. Where was she? The ceiling above her was unfamiliar, cream-colored with subtle crown molding. Not her tiny apartment ceiling with its water stains and peeling paint, not the staff quarters at the mansion either, which she had only seen once during orientation. Emily turned her head carefully. The movement sent a dull ache through her temples. She was in a bedroom that looked like something from a magazine. High ceilings, elegant furniture, a fireplace with actual flames dancing behind an ornate screen. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the storm still raging outside, but here inside it felt impossibly warm and safe. "You're awake." The The voice came from her left. Emily's heart stuttered as she turned to find Nicholas Grimaldiro sitting in a chair pulled close to the bed. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, dark eyes studying her face with an intensity that made her breath catch. She had never been this close to him before. Had seen him from a distance, serving coffee or straightening rooms as he passed through. He was always impeccably dressed, always moving with purpose, always surrounded by an aura of controlled power that made the other staff step aside automatically. Now he looked different. His black hair was disheveled, falling across his forehead. His white shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up to his elbows. There was snow melted into dark patches on his shoulders and pants. His dress shoes sat abandoned near the door, replaced by nothing. He had run outside in his socks. For her. The realization hit Emily like a physical blow. He had come looking for her, had carried her inside, had saved her life. Mr. Grimaldiro, she croaked. Her throat felt raw, voice barely working. Don't. He held up one hand, stopping her mid-sentence. Don't apologize. Don't explain. Just tell me how you feel. Emily took inventory of her body. Everything ached in a distant, muted way. Her fingers and toes tingled painfully as circulation returned. But she was alive, warm, safe, cold, she admitted. But better. What happened? Nicholas's expression darkened, jaw tightening visibly. You were outside for approximately 45 minutes in below-zero temperatures. Dr. Morrison says you're lucky. Early-stage hypothermia. Another 10 minutes and we would be having a very different conversation. The memories came flooding back. The broken vase. Richard's fury. Being pushed out into the storm. Walking through endless snow until her body stopped cooperating. The tree where everything went dark. The vase. Emily started, trying to sit up. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Stop. Nicholas stood abruptly, moving to the side of the bed. He placed one hand on her shoulder, gently but firmly pressing her back against the pillows. Listen to me very carefully, Emily. That vase was an object. Expensive, yes. Old, yes. Irreplaceable in terms of identical replacement, yes. But it was still just an object made of porcelain and paint. His hand remained on her shoulder, warm through the layers of blankets. Emily could feel the controlled strength in his grip, the tension radiating from him. You are a person, Nicholas continued, voice dropping lower. A human being with thoughts and feelings, and a life ahead of you. Objects can be valued. People cannot be replaced. Do you understand the difference? Emily nodded, not trusting her voice. Something hot pressed behind her eyes. When was the last time someone had said something like that to her? When was the last time anyone had made her feel like her life mattered more than the inconvenience she might cause? Richard Caldwell had no right to do what he did, Nicholas said. Each word came out precise, controlled, barely containing the fury beneath. No right to put your life in danger over a broken vase. No right to force you outside in a blizzard. No right to refuse you basic safety. He was angry, Emily whispered. I destroyed something valuable. I don't care if you had smashed every piece of porcelain in this house. Nicholas's hand tightened fractionally on her shoulder. Nothing, absolutely nothing, justifies what he did. Emily stared up at him, seeing something in his face she didn't quite understand. Something fierce and protective that seemed disproportionate to her position as a maid who had only worked there 3 months. But she didn't question it, couldn't question it. She was too tired, too overwhelmed, too grateful to be alive. Thank you, she said softly, for coming after me, for saving my life. Something flickered across Nicholas's expression. His hand slowly released her shoulder, fingers trailing down her arm for just a second before he stepped back. You need to rest. Dr. Morrison wants you monitored for 48 hours. You'll stay in this room where it's warm. Maria will check on you regularly. This room? Emily glanced around again, taking in the luxury surrounding her. This isn't the staff quarters. No, this is the guest suite adjacent to my private wing. Warmest room in the house, best heating system, and I can hear if you need anything. Nicholas moved toward the door, then paused with his hand on the frame. Get some sleep, Emily. We'll talk more when you're recovered. Mr. Grimaldero, Emily called out as he started to leave. He turned back, one eyebrow raised slightly. What about Richard? Nicholas's expression went cold. Arctic cold. The kind of cold that made Emily understand why people spoke his name in hushed tones. Richard Caldwell is no longer your concern. Rest now. He left, closing the door softly behind him. Emily sank back into the pillows, exhaustion pulling at her despite everything running through her mind. The blankets around her smelled clean, expensive, nothing like her apartment or the staff quarters. She should feel out of place here, should feel uncomfortable in luxury so far removed from her reality. Instead, she felt safe for the first time in months. Downstairs, Nicholas descended the main staircase with measured steps. His rage had been building for the past hour, held under tight control while Emily needed him calm. Now that she was stable, now that Dr. Morrison had confirmed she would recover fully, that control was fraying. The main hall was full. Every member of the household staff stood assembled, from the kitchen workers to the security team to the cleaning crew. They lined the walls, standing at attention, sensing something significant was about to happen. Luca stood near the front, arms crossed, face impassive. Maria was there too, hands folded in front of her, eyes worried. And in the center of it all, Richard Caldwell stood alone. His earlier composure had cracked around the edges. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool temperature. His hands were clasped behind his back, but Nicholas could see them trembling slightly. Good. He should be afraid. Nicholas reached the bottom of the stairs and stopped, surveying his assembled household. Silence pressed down heavy and absolute. No one spoke. No one moved. They barely seemed to breathe. For those who don't know, Nicholas began, voice carrying easily through the space. Emily Turner was found outside on the property approximately an hour ago. She was suffering from hypothermia and near death. Gasps rippled through the staff. Eyes widened. People glanced at each other, then quickly back to Nicholas. This happened because she was forced outside into a blizzard by the man standing before you. Nicholas gestured toward Richard. Mr. Caldwell decided that a broken vase was worth more than a human life, that his personal anger justified attempted murder. It wasn't, Richard started. Speak again without permission, and I'll have Luca remove you. Nicholas cut him off sharply. Right now you listen. Richard's mouth snapped shut. A muscle jumped in his jaw, but he remained silent. Nicholas began to pace slowly, hands in his pockets, every inch of him radiating controlled menace. Let me be absolutely clear about how things work in my household. I don't care what position you hold. I don't care how long you've been here. I don't care about your grievances or your justifications. If you work under this roof, you treat every other person here with basic human decency and respect. He stopped in front of Richard, close enough that the older man had to tilt his head back to maintain eye contact. You violated that in the worst possible way. You endangered someone I am responsible for, someone who trusted that working here meant safety, not violence. She broke. Richard tried again. A vase. Nicholas's voice dropped to something dangerous. You're genuinely standing here trying to justify attempted manslaughter over a decorative object. Do you understand how that sounds? Richard's face flushed red. I have served this family for 15 years. I have maintained standards, kept order, ensured perfection. You've been a tyrant who confused fear with respect, Nicholas interrupted. I've heard the stories, Richard. How you treat staff you consider beneath you. The verbal abuse, the impossible standards, the constant criticism. I tolerated it because you were efficient, and I mistakenly believed some harshness kept people sharp. He took a step closer. Richard automatically stepped back. But this? Forcing a 19-year-old girl to freeze to death over an accident? That crosses every line that exists. You're done here. Maria made a small sound. Several staff members exchanged glances. Richard's face went from red to white in seconds. You can't fire me, Richard said, voice shaking. I run this household. Without me, everything falls apart. You are fired, Nicholas stated flatly. Effective immediately. Luca will escort you to your quarters. You have 15 minutes to collect your personal belongings. Nothing that belongs to this house leaves with you. After that, You'll be driven to wherever you choose to go within the city limits. You are never to return to this property. If you do, you'll be arrested for trespassing. This is insane. Richard's composure shattered completely. Over some maid? Some nobody who can't even do her job properly? You're destroying 15 years of loyalty for her? Nicholas leaned in close, voice dropping to barely above a whisper that somehow still carried through the silent hall. That nobody, as you call her, is a human being who deserves basic safety. Something you clearly cannot comprehend. Your 15 minutes started the moment you raised your voice to me. I suggest you don't waste them. Luca moved forward, positioning himself behind Richard. 2 security guards flanked them. The message was clear. This wasn't a negotiation. Richard looked around the assembled staff as if searching for support. No one met his eyes. They had all seen the security footage by now, had all heard what happened. Whatever authority Richard once commanded had evaporated the moment Nicholas spoke against him. You'll regret this, Richard said quietly, venom dripping from every word. I promise you that. Nicholas's expression didn't change. Are you threatening me in my own home? Richard's jaw worked, but no sound came out. Finally, he turned sharply and walked toward the staff wing, Luca and the guards following. The sound of their footsteps faded into the distance. Nicholas turned back to the assembled staff. Most looked shocked. Some looked relieved. Maria looked like she might cry. The rest of you, Nicholas said, voice returning to normal volume, are dismissed. Dinner preparations should continue as planned. Tonight's event is still happening. I expect everything to proceed smoothly. People began to disperse, whispers breaking out as soon as they felt far enough away to speak safely. Nicholas gestured to Maria, who approached cautiously. Maria Santos, Nicholas said. You've been here longer than Richard. 12 years, correct? 15, sir. Maria corrected quietly. I started the same year Mr. Caldwell did. Then you know how this household runs. You know the standards expected, the routines that need maintaining. Nicholas studied her carefully. I'm promoting you to house manager effective immediately. You'll oversee all domestic operations. Your salary will reflect the new position. Can you handle it? Maria's eyes widened. Yes, sir. Of course. But Emily, is she? She'll recover fully, Nicholas said. Dr. Morrison confirmed it. But she'll need care over the next few days. I'm trusting you to check on her regularly. Make sure she has everything she needs. Absolutely. Maria's expression softened. That poor girl. What she must have gone through. Make sure the other staff know she's under my direct protection now, Nicholas added. Anyone who treats her poorly will answer to me personally. Maria nodded, understanding the weight behind those words. I'll make sure everyone knows, sir. After Maria left to begin her new duties, Nicholas stood alone in the entrance hall. The broken vase had been cleaned up at some point, every fragment removed, floor polished until no evidence remained, as if it had never existed. But Emily had existed, had nearly died, had been saved by minutes. Nicholas looked toward the staircase leading to the guest wing. She would be sleeping now, warmth and safety surrounding her. Tomorrow she would wake more stable, warm, coherent, and stubborn as ever. Would probably try to apologize again for something that wasn't her fault. Would probably offer to leave when she was strong enough. He wouldn't let her. Couldn't let her. Not until he was absolutely certain she was safe and recovered. Not until he understood this protective instinct that had driven him out into a blizzard for someone who was supposed to be just another employee. Nicholas climbed the stairs slowly, stopping outside the guest suite. He opened the door quietly, just enough to look inside. Emily was asleep, her face peaceful in the warm glow of the fireplace. Color had returned to her cheeks. Her breathing was steady and strong. She had smiled at him earlier, just before he left. A small, genuine smile despite everything she had been through. Had reached out and touched his hand briefly. A gesture of pure gratitude with no expectations attached. Something had shifted in that moment. Something Nicholas couldn't quite name but felt acutely. This girl with her clear blue eyes and resilient spirit had gotten under his skin in 3 months of quiet efficiency and genuine kindness. He closed the door softly and walked to his own room, already planning what came next. Richard was gone, but the threat he posed might not be. People like that didn't accept defeat gracefully. They held grudges, plotted revenge. Nicholas pulled out his phone and sent a text to Luca. After Richard is dropped off, I want eyes on him. Where he goes, who he contacts, everything. The reply came within seconds. Already arranged. Nicholas smiled grimly. This was why Luca had been his second for 8 years. The man anticipated needs before they were spoken. Downstairs, the Christmas Eve dinner would proceed as planned. Business associates would arrive, drinks would be served, deals would be discussed in low voices. Nicholas would play his role perfectly, the gracious host and powerful figure they expected, but his mind would be upstairs with a 19-year-old girl who had changed something fundamental in his world without even trying. 1 week after Christmas, Emily woke to soft morning light filtering through the guest suite windows. The blizzard had passed days ago, leaving the mansion grounds blanketed in pristine white that sparkled under pale winter sun. She stretched carefully, testing her body for lingering effects of that night. Everything worked properly now. No numbness, no aches, just the strange displacement of waking up in luxury that still didn't feel quite real. A gentle knock preceded Maria Santos entering with a breakfast tray. The older woman's face lit up when she saw Emily sitting up in bed. "Good morning, sweetheart," Maria said warmly, settling the tray across Emily's lap. Steam rose from hot coffee and scrambled eggs, fresh fruit arranged artfully on the side. "You have more color today." "This is good," Emily smiled. Maria had been visiting 3 or 4 times daily since that first night, always bringing food, always checking that Emily had everything she needed. The woman's maternal concern was so genuine it made Emily's chest ache. She hadn't experienced that kind of care since her own mother died. "I feel much better," Emily assured her. "Really, I think I'm ready to get back to work." "Mr. Grimaldiro was very clear," Maria interrupted gently but firmly. "You stay in this room until Dr. Morrison says otherwise. No arguments." Emily bit back protest. She wasn't used to being taken care of. Wasn't used to staying still while other people worked around her. The guilt of not pulling her weight had been building steadily. Maria must have read her expression, because she settled into the chair beside the bed with a knowing look. "I see that face. Stop feeling guilty for needing rest after nearly freezing to death. But everyone else is working and I'm just recovering," Maria finished. "Like you should be. Besides, Mr. Grimaldiro has been very specific about your care. I have never, in 15 years of working for that man, seen him so concerned about anyone." Emily's coffee cup paused halfway to her lips. "What do you mean?" Maria's eyes held a knowing gleam. "He checks on you, multiple times per day. Asks if you need anything, if you're comfortable, if the room is warm enough. He had the heating system in this wing upgraded. Personally reviewed your meal plans with the kitchen staff. Sits in his study with the door open so he can hear if you call out." Heat crept up Emily's neck. "He's just being a good employer." "Mija," Maria laughed softly. "I have worked for Nicholas Grimaldiro through 3 different house managers. I have seen him interact with dozens of staff members over the years. This is not normal employer behavior. This is something else." Before Emily could process that statement, another knock sounded. Maria stood smoothly. That will be him now. Like clockwork. She opened the door to reveal Nicholas, dressed more casually than Emily had ever seen him. Dark jeans, black sweater, hair slightly disheveled as if he had been running his hands through it. He carried a laptop under one arm. "Maria," he nodded to the housekeeper. "How is she this morning?" "See for yourself," Maria said, amusement clear in her tone. "I'll be in the kitchen if anyone needs me." She left, closing the door partially behind her. Nicholas approached the bed, setting his laptop on the nearby desk. His dark eyes scanned Emily's face with that same intensity she was beginning to recognize. "You look stronger," he observed. "Good. Dr. Morrison will be here this afternoon for a final check." "I really am fine now," Emily said. "I should probably move back to the staff quarters." "No." The single word was absolute. Emily blinked. "But I can't stay in the guest suite forever." "It's too much." You'll stay here until I'm certain there are no lingering effects. Nicholas pulled the chair closer, sitting down with the kind of casual authority that made arguing feel pointless. Humor me, Emily. After what happened, I need to know you're completely recovered. The way he said her name, low and careful, made something flutter in her chest. She looked down at her breakfast, suddenly unable to hold his gaze. You've already done so much. I don't want to be a burden. You're not. He leaned forward slightly. If anything, having you safe and comfortable makes my life easier. I can focus on work instead of worrying. Emily glanced up. You were worried. Something flickered across his expression. Vulnerability, maybe. Quickly hidden. I pulled you out of the snow, barely breathing. Yes, Emily, I was worried. Silence settled between them. Not uncomfortable, but charged with something unspoken. Emily picked at her eggs, hyper-aware of his presence filling the room. Tell me about yourself, Nicholas said suddenly. I realized I know very little beyond your employment application. Emily's fork stilled. There's not much to tell. Somehow I doubt that. He settled back in his chair, one ankle crossed over his knee, giving her his full attention. You're 19. No family listed as emergency contact. You've worked 5 different jobs in 3 years. That suggests a story. Emily set down her fork, appetite fading. She didn't talk about her past often. It hurt too much. But something about the way Nicholas waited, patient and genuinely interested, made the words come easier. My parents died when I was 16, she said quietly. Car accident. Black ice on the highway. They both died on impact. I was at school when the police came. Nicholas's expression softened. I'm sorry. I didn't have other family. My dad was an only child. Mom's parents passed when I was young. So I ended up in foster care for 2 years until I aged out. Emily traced the pattern on the blanket. The system isn't great for teenagers. I bounced between 3 different homes. None of them were terrible, but none of them were home either. And when you turned 18, I got my own apartment, smallest, cheapest place I could find. Started working whatever jobs I could get. Restaurants mostly, some retail. I was saving money for community college, but... She shrugged. Life kept happening. Rent increases. Medical bills when I got sick. Car repairs until the car died completely. Nicholas listened without interrupting. No judgment in his eyes. No pity. Just attention, and what looked like understanding. 3 months ago, I saw the posting for this position, Emily continued. Live-in maid at a private residence. The salary was better than anything I'd had before, and it included room and board. I thought maybe I could finally save something, maybe take online classes. She laughed bitterly. Then I broke an expensive vase and everything fell apart. No. Nicholas's voice was firm. Richard's reaction to an accident isn't your fault. None of what happened was your fault. Emily met his eyes. You really believe that? Completely. He held her gaze steadily. You deserve better than what you've had, Emily. Better than foster homes that weren't home. Better than struggling just to survive. Better than being punished for being human. Something warm unfurled in Emily's chest. She couldn't remember the last time someone had said she deserved better. Had said she deserved anything at all. What about you? She asked, needing to shift focus away from the emotion building in her throat. Maria mentioned you lost your mother young, too. Nicholas's jaw tightened fractionally. He was quiet for so long Emily thought he wouldn't answer. Then he spoke, voice lower than before. Cancer. I was 15. She fought for 2 years, but it was aggressive. He stared toward the window, seeing something Emily couldn't. My father threw himself into work afterward. He was already distant, but after she died, he became absent completely. I raised myself from 15 onward. I'm sorry, Emily said softly. That must have been lonely. It was. He turned back to her. But it taught me to be self-sufficient. To not depend on anyone. To not let people close enough to cause that kind of pain again. The confession hung between them, vulnerable and raw. Emily understood that instinct. Had felt it herself after her parents died. The urge to stay isolated, stay protected, stay numb. Is that why you live here alone? She asked. In this big house with staff but no actual family? Nicholas's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Perceptive question. You don't have to answer. Yes, he said simply. It's easier this way. I control my environment. I don't get attached. I don't risk losing anyone who matters. Emily set her breakfast tray aside, turning to face him fully. That sounds exhausting. Always keeping everyone at a distance. It is. His dark eyes locked with hers. Most days. The air between them felt thick, charged. Emily's pulse quickened. She should look away. Should change the subject. Should maintain the professional distance that made sense given their respective positions. She didn't. Nicholas stood abruptly, the moment breaking. I should let you eat. I have work to catch up on. You don't have to leave, Emily said before she could stop herself. He paused, looking back at her. No? I mean, she fumbled for words that didn't sound desperate. If you need to work, you could stay. Work here. I don't mind the company. Something warm flickered in his expression. All right, if you're sure. Emily nodded, relieved he wasn't leaving. Nicholas retrieved his laptop and settled back into the chair, angling the screen away from her. He worked in comfortable silence while Emily finished her breakfast, the quiet broken only by occasional typing and the crackle of the fireplace. It felt domestic, natural, like they had done this 100 times before. That afternoon, Dr. Morrison pronounced Emily fully recovered with no lingering effects. Nicholas walked the doctor out personally, while Emily finally got out of bed and showered, washing away a week of confinement. When she emerged in fresh clothes, she found Nicholas waiting in the sitting area outside the guest suite. Clean bill of health, he said, though it sounded more like a statement than a question. Yes, Dr. Morrison said I'm good to return to normal activities. Emily hesitated. I should probably get back to the staff quarters now. Let you have your space back. About that, Nicholas gestured for her to sit in the chair across from him. I have a proposition. Emily sat, curious and slightly nervous. What kind of proposition? I've been thinking about your position here. Before the incident, you were working as general household staff under Richard's supervision. Nicholas leaned forward, elbows on his knees. That position no longer exists. Maria Santos is now house manager. She needs someone she can trust to help coordinate the domestic operations. I'm offering you that position. Emily's eyes widened. Me? But I've only been here 3 months. 3 months where you've shown reliability, attention to detail, and the ability to handle difficult circumstances with grace. Nicholas ticked off points on his fingers. Maria likes you. The other staff respect you. And frankly, after what happened, I want people in management positions who I know won't abuse their power. What would the job entail? Working directly with Maria on household scheduling, staff coordination, supply management? You'd still have hands-on duties, but also administrative responsibilities. The position comes with triple your current salary, and you'd keep the room in the guest wing permanently. Emily's mind reeled. Triple her salary. A permanent room in luxury she never imagined. Working alongside Maria instead of under Richard's constant criticism. It was more than she had dared hope for. Why? She asked. Why are you doing this for me? Nicholas was quiet for a moment, his expression unreadable. Because you deserve the opportunity. Because I need people I can trust in my household. And because... He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. Because I want you to stay. Here, where I know you're safe. The last part was said so quietly Emily almost missed it. But she heard, felt the weight of those words settle between them. I accept, she said, and thank you. For everything. I won't let you down. I know you won't. Nicholas stood, extending his hand. Emily took it, feeling the warmth and strength of his grip. He held on slightly longer than a professional handshake warranted, thumb brushing against her knuckles before releasing. The days that followed established a new rhythm. Emily moved into her new role, learning from Maria, who proved to be patient and encouraging. The older woman taught her the household systems, introduced her properly to all the staff, and gradually handed over responsibilities as Emily grew more confident. The other staff members adjusted quickly to the change. Some because they genuinely liked Emily, others because they recognized Nicholas's clear favor toward her and knew better than to cause problems. Word had spread about Richard's firing, about why it happened, about the security footage that showed everything. No one wanted to risk similar consequences. Emily noticed Nicholas spending more time at the mansion. He had meetings in his study instead of going downtown. Worked from the library instead of his office building. He joined breakfast most mornings, their conversations ranging from current events to books they had read to childhood memories that were easier to share now. She also noticed increased security, more guards patrolling the grounds, new cameras installed in previously unmonitored areas, additional checkpoints at the gates. When she asked Maria about it, the older woman just said that Mr. Grimaldiro took safety seriously, especially in winter when break-ins increased. Emily didn't push. She trusted Nicholas's judgment. If he felt additional security was necessary, she believed he had good reasons. What she didn't know was that in a small apartment across the city, Richard Caldwell sat surrounded by papers and photographs, planning his revenge, or that he had made contact with Alessandro Bianchi, head of the 'Ndrangheta organization that controlled half the ports Nicholas's businesses relied on, or that detailed floor plans of the mansion were currently being studied by men who specialized in making problems disappear. In his study, Nicholas reviewed reports from Luca about Richard's movements, every meeting tracked, every phone call recorded, every contact analyzed. The picture forming was dangerous. Richard wasn't just angry. He was actively working with Nicholas's enemies, feeding them information, helping them plan something big. Nicholas made subtle preparations, reinforced security, briefed his most trusted people, put emergency protocols in place. But he kept Emily insulated from it all. She had been through enough. Deserved to feel safe and settled in her new position. Deserved to smile without fear shadowing her eyes. He watched her now through his study window, crossing the snow-covered courtyard with Maria, both women laughing about something. Emily's blue eyes sparkled in the winter sun. Her cheeks flushed pink from cold. She looked happy, healthy, alive. Something fierce and protective surged through Nicholas's chest. Whatever Richard and Bianchi were planning, they wouldn't touch her. He would burn the entire city down before he let anyone hurt Emily Turner again. Luca appeared in the doorway. "Boss, we've got confirmation. Bianchi's men were seen at 3 different locations surveilling your routes. They're planning something." Nicholas turned from the window, his expression going cold and hard. "Double the perimeter security. I want eyes on every approach to this property." "And Luca?" "Yeah, boss. Emily is priority 1. If anything happens, she gets to the safe room first. Everything else is secondary." Luca nodded, unsurprised. Understood. After his second left, Nicholas returned to the window. Emily had gone inside, but he could still see her smile in his mind, could still hear her laugh, could still feel the way his world had shifted the moment he pulled her from the snow. He had spent years keeping people at a distance, years building walls that nothing could penetrate. Then a 19-year-old girl with clear blue eyes and a resilient spirit had walked into his life and changed everything without even trying. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had saved her life that night in the blizzard, but somehow, in the process, she had started saving his too. The final days of January brought attention to the Grimaldiro mansion that Emily couldn't quite name, but definitely felt. It started subtly. An extra guard stationed near the kitchen entrance who hadn't been there before. Cameras being adjusted by technicians who moved through hallways with quiet efficiency. Luca Pellegrini appearing more frequently, always in low conversation with Nicholas. Both men wearing expressions that suggested the discussions weren't pleasant. Emily noticed, but didn't ask. She had learned quickly in her new position that Nicholas's world operated on information shared only when necessary. Maria had explained it gently one afternoon while they reviewed supply orders together. "Mr. Grimaldiro handles dangerous things," the older woman had said, measuring her words carefully. "Business that most people don't understand and shouldn't need to. Sometimes that danger gets close to home. But in 15 years, he has never let anyone under his roof be hurt. Never." The reassurance had helped then. Now, watching another security team install reinforced locks on the exterior doors, Emily wondered what specifically had prompted this level of precaution. She was in the library cataloging books that afternoon when Nicholas appeared in the doorway. He looked different from the composed man she usually saw. His black shirt was wrinkled, sleeves rolled up messily. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. Hair disheveled like he had been pulling at it repeatedly. "Emily?" His voice came out rougher than usual. "Have you seen Luca? He was in the security office about 20 minutes ago," she said, setting down her tablet. "Is everything okay?" Nicholas's jaw tightened. "Fine. Just busy." He turned to leave, but Emily caught the exhaustion in his shoulders, the tension radiating from every line of his body. This wasn't fine. This was a man carrying weight that was crushing him slowly. "Mr. Grimaldiro," she called out. He paused but didn't turn back. "Nicholas." That made him turn. She rarely used his first name, saving it for moments that felt important. This felt important. "You look like you haven't slept in days," Emily said gently. "When was the last time you ate something?" "I don't remember." He rubbed his face with one hand. "Yesterday, maybe." Emily stood, making a decision. "Come with me." "Emily, I have work." 5 minutes, she interrupted. "You can spare 5 minutes." She didn't wait for agreement, just walked past him toward the kitchen. After a moment, she heard his footsteps following. The kitchen was empty, the evening staff not due to arrive for another hour. Emily moved efficiently, preparing coffee the way she had learned he preferred. Strong, dark, no sugar. She added a plate of the small sandwiches the cook had prepared earlier, knowing Nicholas would protest a full meal, but might accept something small. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the small table in the corner where staff usually took breaks. Nicholas hesitated, then complied. He watched her move around the kitchen with an expression she couldn't quite read. When she set the coffee and plate in front of him, his fingers brushed hers briefly. The contact sent warmth up her arm. "Thank you," he said quietly. Emily poured herself coffee and sat across from him. They were quiet for several minutes while Nicholas drank and ate mechanically, like his body needed the fuel but his mind was elsewhere completely. "Whatever's happening," Emily said carefully. "You don't have to handle it alone." Nicholas's dark eyes lifted to meet hers. "You don't know what you're saying. Then explain it to me." "I can't." He set down his coffee cup harder than intended. "This isn't your world, Emily. These aren't your problems. They are if they're affecting you like this." She leaned forward slightly. "I'm not asking you to tell me business details or anything confidential. But I can see you're carrying something heavy. Sometimes just talking helps." Nicholas studied her face for a long moment. Whatever he saw there made something in his expression soften fractionally. He was quiet for so long, Emily thought he wouldn't respond. Then he spoke, voice low and controlled. "Richard Caldwell hasn't disappeared quietly." Emily's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "He's been meeting with people. People who have reasons to want me weakened or eliminated. People who control territories my businesses operate in." Nicholas's fingers tightened around his coffee cup. "He's been giving them information. Floor plans of this house, security schedules, routines, everything they would need to plan an attack." The blood drained from Emily's face. "An attack? Here? We've detected surveillance on multiple approaches to the property. Wiretaps picked up conversations suggesting something is being planned." Nicholas's jaw flexed. "I've reinforced security, brought in additional teams, put countermeasures in place. But the threat is real." Emily absorbed this, her mind racing. Richard wanted revenge badly enough to align with Nicholas's enemies, to potentially put everyone in the mansion at risk. "Does Maria know? The other staff?" "Maria knows enough to be careful. The others just know we're increasing security for winter months. No need to cause panic." Nicholas pushed his plate away, appetite clearly gone. "What bothers me most is that you're here. You became a target the moment Richard decided you were important to me." "I'm not important. You are." The words came out firm, absolute. Richard saw that. Now his new associates see it too. "And that makes you valuable as leverage against me." Emily's hands trembled slightly. She set her coffee cup down carefully. "So, what happens now?" "I handle it." Nicholas's expression hardened. "I have people working on locating exactly what they're planning and when. Once we know, We act first. Eliminate the threat before it materializes. That sounds dangerous. It's necessary. He stood, pacing to the window that overlooked the snowy grounds. This is what I do, Emily. Threats emerge. I neutralize them. It's how I've survived this long in my world. Emily watched him, seeing the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands curled into fists at his sides. This man who seemed so unshakable, so completely in control, was barely holding it together right now. The weight of protecting everyone under his roof, of making decisions that might mean life or death, of existing in a world where violence was currency. She stood and crossed to him slowly. You don't have to do it alone, though. Yes, I do. He didn't look at her. That's the price of this life. Isolation, distance, making choices no one else should have to make. That's not true. Emily stopped beside him, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. You have Luca. You have Maria. You have people who are loyal to you. They work for me. That's different from... He cut himself off. Different from what? Nicholas finally turned to face her. Up close, she could see the exhaustion etched into his features, the worry lines around his eyes, the tightness in his jaw. Different from caring about someone in a way that makes their safety matter more than strategic advantage. The confession hung between them, raw and vulnerable. Emily's breath caught. She had known, on some level, that whatever existed between them had shifted beyond employer and employee, had felt it in the way he looked at her, the way he made sure she was comfortable, the way he had run into a blizzard to save her life. But hearing him acknowledge it out loud made it real in a way that was both thrilling and terrifying. Nicholas, she said softly, I could have left after what happened with Richard. Could have taken the settlement money I'm sure you would have offered and disappeared to start over somewhere else. No one would have blamed me. But you didn't. No, because I chose to stay. She took a small step closer. I chose to accept this position knowing your world is complicated and sometimes dangerous. I chose to trust that you would keep me safe. And I chose all of that because... She paused, heart hammering. This was crossing a line they had both been carefully dancing around for weeks. Once said, it couldn't be taken back. Because I trust you completely, she finished. Not as my employer. Not as the person who saved my life. But as someone I genuinely care about. Someone whose well-being matters to me. Someone I don't regret being near, even knowing the risks. Nicholas stared at her, something breaking open in his expression. You should regret it. You should run as far from me as possible. My life destroys good things, Emily. It corrupts them. I've seen it happen over and over. Then maybe I'm not as good as you think. Emily reached up slowly, giving him time to move away. When he didn't, she placed her palm against his cheek. His skin was warm, rough with stubble he hadn't taken time to shave. Maybe I'm someone who sees past the danger to the person underneath. Someone who knows you're carrying impossible weight and wants to help carry some of it, even if just for a few minutes. Nicholas's eyes closed. He leaned into her touch, just slightly, like a man starving for connection he had denied himself too long. His hand came up to cover hers, pressing it more firmly against his face. You're making this very difficult, he said, voice barely above a whisper. Making what difficult? Keeping distance. Staying rational. His eyes opened, pinning her with an intensity that made her knees weak. You have no idea what you do to me. How hard it is to maintain control when you look at me like that. Like what? Like I'm not a monster. His thumb stroked across her knuckles. Like you see something worth caring about instead of something to fear. Emily's other hand rose to his chest, feeling his heartbeat thundering beneath her palm. You're not a monster, Nicholas. You're a man trying to protect the people in your life. There's nothing monstrous about that. You don't know what I've done. The decisions I've made. The blood on my hands. I know you ran into a blizzard in your socks to save someone who was just supposed to be your maid. I know you fired a man who had worked for you for 15 years because he endangered me. I know you check on me multiple times a day, even though you're drowning in other responsibilities. That's what I know. Nicholas's grip on her hand tightened. He was wavering. She could see it. The careful control he always maintained cracking under the weight of exhaustion and stress, and the connection humming between them. Emily, he breathed. If I This will complicate everything. I know. You could get hurt. Not just physically, but emotionally. My world doesn't allow for normal relationships, for simple happiness. I know that too. She moved closer still, until barely any space remained between them. I'm not asking for normal, Nicholas. I'm just asking to be here. With you, however that looks. His free hand rose to her waist, pulling her against him fully. Emily's breath hitched. This close, she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could feel the tension vibrating through his powerful frame, could smell the scent of him mixing with coffee, and something uniquely his own. You deserve better than what I can offer, he said, but his hold on her didn't loosen. You deserve someone who can take you to normal places, who can promise you safety and stability, who doesn't have enemies planning attacks on his home. Stop telling me what I deserve. Emily's voice came out stronger than she felt. Let me decide that for myself. And right now, what I want is to be exactly where I am. Here, with you. Nicholas made a sound low in his throat, something between frustration and surrender. His hand slid from her waist to the small of her back, pressing her impossibly closer. His other hand released hers to cup her face, thumb brushing across her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. This is a terrible idea, he murmured, his gaze dropping to her mouth. Probably. I should walk away right now. But you won't. No. His forehead touched hers, breath mingling with hers in the minimal space between them. God help me, I won't. He leaned in, closing the distance. Emily's eyes fluttered shut, anticipation thrumming through every nerve. She could feel his lips hovering just above hers, could feel the moment before everything changed. Boss. Luca's voice cut through the moment like a blade. We've got a situation. Nicholas went rigid. His hands on Emily tightened reflexively for a heartbeat, before he forced himself to release her and step back. The loss of contact felt like cold water. What situation? Nicholas's voice shifted instantly. All business, despite the tension still visible in his shoulders. Luca stood in the kitchen doorway, carefully not looking at Emily. Surveillance picked up movement on the eastern perimeter. 4 men, armed, doing reconnaissance. They retreated when they spotted our cameras, but not before we got clear photos. Richard's new friends. Nicholas's expression went cold and hard. How long ago? 12 minutes. I sent a team to track, but they disappeared into the woods. Nicholas nodded once, sharp and decisive. Lock down the property. No one in or out without my direct approval. Double the guard rotation. I want eyes on every approach. Already done. Luca's gaze flicked briefly to Emily. Sir, should we... Emily is priority 1, Nicholas said before Luca could finish. If anything happens, she goes to the safe room first. Everything else is secondary. Clear? Crystal. Luca finally met Emily's eyes. Ma'am, I'll need to brief you on emergency protocols. Just precautionary. Emily nodded, trying to process everything. Armed men on the property. Reconnaissance. Safe rooms and emergency protocols. This was really happening. The abstract threat Nicholas had described was becoming terrifyingly concrete. Go with Luca, Nicholas said to her, his voice gentler now. He'll show you what you need to know. I have calls to make. Emily wanted to stay, wanted to finish the conversation they had been having, the moment they had almost shared. But she saw the shift in Nicholas's demeanor, recognized he had gone into protection mode where emotion took a back seat to strategy. Okay, she said. Be careful. Something softened in his expression for just a second. Always am. As Emily followed Luca out of the kitchen, she glanced back once. Nicholas stood at the window again, phone already to his ear, issuing orders in a low, controlled voice. He looked every inch the powerful figure people whispered about in hushed tones. Dangerous. Ruthless. Untouchable. But Emily knew better now. She had felt the man beneath that armor, had seen his vulnerability, his fear, his desperate need for connection. He wouldn't allow himself. Had almost tasted his kiss. Whatever was coming, whatever Richard and his dangerous allies were planning, Emily knew one thing with absolute certainty. She wasn't going anywhere. She had chosen to stay in Nicholas's world, with all its complications and dangers, had chosen him, and she didn't regret it for a second. The attack came at 3:47 in the morning on the first Tuesday of February. Emily woke to sounds that didn't belong in the quiet mansion. Not the usual creaks of old wood settling or wind against windows. These were sharp, purposeful sounds. Breaking glass. Shouting voices. Then the unmistakable crack of gunfire. Her body went rigid with terror. She sat up in bed, heart hammering so hard it hurt. More gunfire, closer this time. The security alarm system blared to life, red emergency lights flooding her room through the gap under the door. Emily scrambled out of bed, mind racing. The emergency protocols Luca had drilled into her 2 weeks ago flooded back. Stay in the room. Lock the door. Wait for Nicholas or Luca to come for you. Don't open for anyone else. She locked the door with shaking hands, just as footsteps pounded down the hallway outside. More shouting. Someone screaming. The sharp commands of security teams moving into position. This was real. This was actually happening. Emily backed away from the door, grabbing her phone from the nightstand. No signal. The lines had been cut or jammed. She was alone with no way to call for help and gunfire echoing through the mansion she had started thinking of as safe. The door handle rattled violently. Emily's scream caught in her throat. Then Nicholas's voice cut through her panic like a lifeline. "Emily, it's me. Open the door, now." She flew across the room, fumbling with the lock. The door burst open the second it clicked, and Nicholas was there, dressed in all black, a gun in one hand. His other hand immediately reached for her, pulling her against him. "Are you hurt?" His eyes scanned her face, her body, checking for injuries with clinical efficiency despite the chaos erupting around them. "No, I'm fine." "What's happening?" "No time." Nicholas kept his arm around her, tucking her against his side as he moved back into the hallway. "Stay close to me. Don't let go." They ran through corridors Emily barely recognized in the red emergency lighting. The sounds of fighting intensified. Glass shattered somewhere below. Men shouted orders in Italian and English. Return fire from Nicholas's security team echoed like thunder. Luca appeared at an intersection, blood streaking his temple but his expression focused and deadly calm. "East wing is secure. West wing has 2 hostiles pinned down. Maria and the others? Already in the safe room," Nicholas confirmed. "I'm bringing Emily now." They descended a staircase Emily had never used before, hidden behind what looked like a regular wall panel in the library. Down into darkness broken only by emergency lighting. The sounds of the attack faded above them, muffled by layers of concrete and steel. At the bottom, a heavy reinforced door stood open. Warm light spilled out. Nicholas ushered Emily through, and she found herself in a large underground room. Maria sat on a bench along one wall, arms around 2 younger kitchen staff members who looked terrified. 3 other household employees huddled together near supplies stacked against another wall. "Emily!" Maria stood immediately, reaching for her. "Thank God." Nicholas guided Emily to Maria, his hand lingering on her back for a moment before releasing her. "Stay here. Don't open this door for anyone but me or Luca. Understood? Where are you going?" Emily grabbed his arm, fear spiking through her. "You can't go back up there." "I have to." His dark eyes locked with hers. "This is my house, my people, my responsibility." "Nicholas, please." He cupped her face with his free hand, thumb brushing across her cheekbone. "I'll come back, I promise. But I need to know you're safe first." Before Emily could respond, he was gone. The heavy door swung shut with a sound like a tomb ceiling. Electronic locks engaged with multiple clicks. Then silence, except for the frightened breathing of the people trapped underground. Maria pulled Emily down to sit beside her. "He'll be okay. He survived worse than this." Emily wanted to believe that. Tried to. But the image of Nicholas walking back into gunfire, into danger, made her stomach twist with nausea. She had almost kissed him yesterday in the kitchen, had felt the connection between them snap into place with terrifying clarity. And now he might die before she got the chance to tell him how she really felt. Time moved strangely in the safe room. Minutes felt like hours. They heard nothing from above, the thick walls blocking all sound. Emily counted her heartbeats, then her breaths, then gave up, and just stared at the door, willing it to open with Nicholas standing on the other side. Finally, After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 20 minutes, locks disengaged. Everyone in the room tensed. Emily stood, positioning herself in front of Maria and the others automatically. The door swung open to reveal Nicholas, Luca behind him. Both men were disheveled, blood on their clothes, though Emily couldn't tell if it was theirs. Nicholas's eyes found Emily immediately, something in his expression relaxing when he confirmed she was unharmed. "It's over," he said. "The threat is neutralized." Relief crashed through the room like a wave. The kitchen staff started crying. Maria made the sign of the cross and whispered thanks in Spanish. Emily just stared at Nicholas, cataloging every detail. He was standing, moving, alive. "What happened?" Maria asked, finding her voice first. "Attempted breach by 8 armed men," Luca reported. "They used the floor plans and security information Richard provided to coordinate entry points. We were expecting it, so we had countermeasures in place." "Casualties?" Nicholas asked. 2 hostiles dead, 3 captured alive. The rest fled when they realized the attack was failing. Luca wiped blood from his temple with the back of his hand. Richard Caldwell was spotted in a vehicle approximately 200 yards from the east gate, coordinating communications. He escaped before we could apprehend him. Nicholas's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "The captured men? Being interrogated now. Good. I want to know exactly who sent them and what the full plan was." Nicholas turned to address everyone in the safe room. "You're all safe now. The property is secure. Please return to your quarters and try to get some rest. No one is required to work today. Take the time you need." The staff began filing out slowly, still shaken. Maria squeezed Emily's hand before leaving. "Come find me when you're ready, sweetheart." Then it was just Emily, Nicholas, and Luca in the safe room. The air felt heavy with unspoken words. "I need to speak with Emily privately," Nicholas said to Luca. His second nodded. "I'll be coordinating cleanup and reinforcing the perimeter. Call if you need anything, boss." After Luca left, silence stretched between them. Nicholas moved closer, his eyes never leaving Emily's face. "You're really okay?" he asked quietly. "Not hurt? Not in shock?" "I'm okay." Emily's voice shook despite her best efforts. "Scared, but okay." Nicholas reached out slowly, giving her time to move away. When she didn't, he pulled her into his arms. Emily went willingly, pressing her face against his chest, feeling his heart beating strong and steady against her cheek. His arms wrapped around her tightly, one hand cradling the back of her head. They stood like that for long moments, neither speaking. Emily breathed him in, let herself feel safe in his embrace. Let the terror of the past hour slowly drain away. "I was so scared," she whispered against his shirt. "When you left. When I didn't know if you were okay." Nicholas's arms tightened. "I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's not your fault." "It is." He pulled back enough to look at her, his expression grave. "This happened because of me. Because of my world. My enemies. My choices. And you were put in danger because Richard identified you as someone He stopped, jaw working. "Someone you what?" "Someone I care about." The admission came out rough, like he was dragging it from somewhere deep. The interrogation of the captured men confirmed what I suspected. This wasn't just an attack on my property or my business. They had specific orders regarding you. Emily's blood went cold. "What kind of orders?" Nicholas hesitated, clearly not wanting to say it. "To take you alive. To use you as leverage against me." The room spun slightly. Emily grabbed his arms for support. "They were going to kidnap me? That was the plan." Nicholas's hands moved to her shoulders, steadying her. "Emily, I need you to understand something. This isn't over. Richard escaped. The organization backing him still exists. They know now that you matter to me, which makes you a permanent target as long as you're near me." Emily's mind raced, processing implications. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying I can't keep you here." "Not safely." Pain flickered across Nicholas's face. "As much as I want you close. As much as having you in this house has become..." He stopped again, struggling with words. "I can't protect you properly if you're in the middle of an active war zone." "You want me to leave?" The words came out small. "Hurt." "No. God, no." Nicholas pulled her close again, resting his forehead against hers. I want you as far from danger as possible, which is the opposite of what I want personally. But your safety matters more than what I want. Where would I go? I have a safe house in the Adirondack Mountains. Remote, secure, defendable. I'll send you there with a protection detail. Round-the-clock security. Everything you need. His thumbs stroked across her shoulders. Just until I resolve this situation with Bianchi and Richard permanently. Emily's throat tightened. How long? I don't know. Weeks, maybe. A month at most. He pulled back to look at her directly. I know this isn't what you want. I know asking you to hide goes against everything independent about you. But please, Emily. Please do this for me. What about you? Emily demanded. You're staying here in danger while I run away to safety? This is my world. I was born into it, trained for it. I know how to handle threats like this. Nicholas's expression hardened. You shouldn't have to know. You shouldn't have to live looking over your shoulder wondering if today is the day someone uses you to hurt me. But that's exactly what you'll be doing, Emily argued. Looking over your shoulder, wondering if they found me, if your security is enough, if I'm safe. How is that better? Nicholas closed his eyes briefly. It's not. But at least I'll know you're somewhere they can't easily reach. Somewhere I don't have to worry about you being caught in crossfire or taken in the middle of the night. Emily understood the logic. Hated it, but understood it. Nicholas couldn't focus on eliminating threats if he was constantly worried about her immediate safety. And she couldn't pretend the attack hadn't terrified her. That the idea of armed men coming specifically for her didn't make her want to run as far as possible. Okay, she said finally. I'll go. Relief and regret mixed in Nicholas's expression. Thank you. On one condition. His eyebrow raised slightly. What condition? You promise me this is temporary. That you're not sending me away permanently. That when this is over, when it's safe, I come back. Emily's voice strengthened. To you. Not just to the mansion or the job. To you. Nicholas stared at her for a long moment. Then something shifted in his face. Walls crumbling to reveal raw emotion underneath. Emily, I need to hear you say it, she interrupted. Because I can't go into hiding for weeks not knowing if what's been building between us is real, or if I imagined it. You didn't imagine it. Nicholas's hands came up to frame her face. From the moment I pulled you from that snow, something changed. You changed me. Made me want things I thought I couldn't have. Made me feel things I thought I'd buried too deep to resurrect. Emily's breath caught. Nicholas, this is temporary, he said firmly. You go somewhere safe while I burn down everyone who threatens you. And when it's done, when I've made sure no one will ever come after you again, you come back. To me. Promise? I promise. He leaned down, pressing his lips to her forehead. Not the kiss she wanted, but intimate in its own way. Wait for me, Emily. However long it takes. I will. 2 hours later, Emily stood in the mansion's garage with a single suitcase. A black SUV idled nearby, 3 armed security guards already inside. Maria stood next to Emily, fighting tears. You take care of yourself up there, the older woman said, pulling Emily into a tight hug. And don't worry about Mr. Grimaldiro. I'll make sure he eats and sleeps. Promise me you'll come back when it's safe. I promise. Emily hugged her back fiercely. Thank you for everything, Maria. For being kind to me. For treating me like family. You are family, sweetheart. Maria kissed both her cheeks. This is your home now. You remember that. Nicholas appeared from the house, dressed in a fresh suit despite the early hour. He looked composed again. The powerful boss everyone respected, but Emily saw the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. He approached slowly, hands in his pockets. The team knows the route. They'll drive in shifts, switch vehicles twice to ensure you're not followed. The safe house has everything you need. Satellite phone with my number programmed in. Use it anytime. Okay, Emily nodded, not trusting her voice for more. Nicholas glanced at Maria and the security team. Whatever he saw in their faces made him gesture sharply. Give us a minute. They dispersed, Maria heading back toward the house, the guards moving to the far side of the garage. Privacy in a space that wasn't truly private. Nicholas stepped closer, So close, Emily had to tilt her head back to see his face. "I'm not good at this," he said quietly, "at goodbyes or feelings or any of it. But I need you to know." He stopped, jaw working. Emily waited, giving him time. "You're not just someone I'm protecting," Nicholas finally continued. "You're someone I need, someone who makes this life bearable instead of just tolerable. When this is over, when I've eliminated every threat, I'm going to ask you for something I have no right to ask." "What?" Emily whispered. "To stay with me. Not as an employee, not out of gratitude or obligation, but as someone who chooses this life, this world. Me, knowing full well what it means." Emily's heart hammered. "You don't have to wait until it's over to ask that." "Yes, I do. Because right now you're scared, and I'm desperate to keep you safe. Those aren't the conditions for that kind of decision." He raised one hand, cupping her cheek with devastating gentleness. "But know that's where this is heading. Know that I'm falling for you in ways that terrify me more than any attack ever could." Emily reached up, covering his hand with hers. "I'm already fallen, Nicholas. Completely. This doesn't change that." His eyes closed briefly, throat working. When they opened again, they blazed with emotion he usually kept buried. Slowly, carefully, he leaned down until his forehead rested against hers. His other hand found the small of her back, pulling her flush against him. They stood like that, breathing the same air, hearts beating in rhythm. Not kissing, but something deeper. A promise without words, a connection that distance wouldn't break. "I have to go," Emily finally whispered, though she made no move to pull away. "I know." Nicholas's arms tightened for just a second before he forced himself to release her. "Stay safe. Trust the team." "And Emily?" "Yes?" "Come back to me. Always." She got into the SUV before she could change her mind, before she could beg to stay despite the danger. The door closed with finality. Through the tinted window, she watched Nicholas stand in the garage, hands in his pockets, watching her leave. As the vehicle pulled away from the mansion, Emily pressed her palm against the glass. Nicholas raised one hand in acknowledgement, standing perfectly still until they turned the corner and he disappeared from view. Emily sank back into her seat, tears finally falling. Maria's words echoed in her mind. "This is your home now," and she believed it. This wasn't running away. It was strategic retreat. Temporary separation. Whatever Nicholas needed to do to make them safe, she would give him the time and space to do it. Because when this was over, she was coming back. To the mansion. To Maria and the life she had started building. To Nicholas and whatever future they could forge together in his dangerous, complicated world. She just had to survive the waiting. The safe house sat nestled in the Adirondack Mountains like a secret carved from wilderness. Massive pine trees surrounded it on all sides, their branches heavy with February snow. The nearest town was 40 minutes away by winding mountain roads that became impassable during storms. It was beautiful, remote, and utterly isolating. Emily stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows in the main living area, watching snow fall in thick sheets. 2.5 weeks had passed since she left the mansion. 17 days of comfortable captivity. 408 hours of waiting. Not that she was counting. The safe house itself was luxurious in an understated way. Open floor plan with exposed wooden beams. Stone fireplace that roared constantly against the mountain cold. Furniture that looked rustic but felt expensive. Kitchen stocked with everything she could possibly need. 3 bedrooms, though she only used 1. State-of-the-art security system that monitored every approach. And guards. Always guards. They rotated in 8-hour shifts, staying mostly outside or in the attached garage that had been converted to their quarters. Professional, polite, invisible, unless needed. But their presence was a constant reminder of why she was here. Of the danger that made this isolation necessary. Emily's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She crossed to it quickly, heart jumping the way it always did when Nicholas called. They spoke every day, sometimes twice, through encrypted satellite connection that couldn't be traced or intercepted. "Hello?" she answered, already smiling despite herself. "Emily." Nicholas's voice came through slightly distorted by the encryption but still unmistakably him. "How are you?" "Still snowed in. Still safe." still going slightly insane from boredom. She leaned against the counter, closing her eyes to focus on his voice. How are things there? Progressing. She heard paper rustling in the background. We located 3 of Bianchi's primary safe houses. Luca's been coordinating surveillance with our allies and the other families. Everyone's tired of the 'Ndrangheta pushing boundaries. Emily had learned more about Nicholas's world in 2 weeks of phone calls than in months of working at the mansion. He didn't hide things from her anymore. Didn't filter or protect her from the reality of his life. Maybe because the distance made it easier to be honest. Maybe because after the attack, there was no point in pretending she didn't understand what his world entailed. Any sign of Richard? She asked. Our informant spotted him twice in the past week. He's staying with Bianchi's people, probably feeling safe behind their protection. Nicholas's voice hardened. He won't feel safe much longer. Emily heard the promise in those words. The cold determination that made Nicholas Grimmeldyro someone you didn't cross. When do you move? Soon. We're gathering evidence, documentation, building a case that even Bianchi can't wiggle out of. The Council of Families is convening next week. Once I present what I have, they'll have no choice but to sanction action against the 'Ndrangheta for violating territorial agreements. Council of Families? Emily repeated. That sounds very Godfather. Nicholas actually laughed, the sound warming her despite the distance between them. It's exactly like that, actually. 5 major families who control different territories. We meet quarterly to resolve disputes, negotiate agreements, prevent all-out war. Bianchi violated several protocols when he approved the attack on my residence. That's bigger than just our personal conflict. So you're using their own rules against them. Precisely. Bianchi thinks numbers and brutality make him untouchable. He's wrong. Structure and alliances are more powerful than guns when leveraged correctly. Emily moved to the couch, tucking her legs under her. I wish I could see you. Hear about this in person instead of through a phone. Silence stretched on the other end. Then Nicholas's voice came back quieter, more intimate. I miss you too. The admission made Emily's chest tight. He didn't say things like that often. Emotions were hard for him, buried under years of training himself not to feel too deeply. When he did let something slip through, it hit harder. How much longer? She asked. Be honest with me. If everything goes as planned at the council meeting, 2 weeks, maybe 3. He paused. Richard's capture is critical. Once we have him, the threat level drops significantly. He's the one with specific knowledge about you, about the mansion, about our vulnerabilities. And you think Bianchi will just hand him over? I think when faced with sanctions from all 5 families, war on multiple fronts, and evidence of his violations, Bianchi will do whatever necessary to survive, including sacrificing Richard Caldwell. Emily absorbed this. In Nicholas's world, loyalty had limits. Survival trumped everything else. Richard had bet on Bianchi's protection, but hadn't understood how quickly alliances shifted when the cost became too high. What will you do with him? Emily asked. With Richard when you get him? Another pause. Longer this time. What do you want me to do? The question caught her off guard. Why does my opinion matter? Because this started with him hurting you, putting you in danger. Nicholas's voice roughened. You have more right than anyone to decide his fate. Emily thought about that night in the blizzard, the cold that had seeped into her bones, the terror of thinking she would die alone in the snow because she had broken a vase, the weeks of recovery, the attack that had forced her into hiding, all because Richard Caldwell couldn't control his cruelty. I don't want revenge, she said finally. I just want to be safe. I want to come home without looking over my shoulder constantly. Whatever accomplishes, that is what you should do. You're more forgiving than I am. I'm practical, Emily corrected. Killing him just makes you the bad guy in someone else's story. But if he's in prison for the rest of his life, can't hurt anyone anymore, can't feed information to your enemies, that works just as well. She heard Nicholas breathing on the other end, considering her words. You've gotten better at thinking strategically. I had a good teacher. Emily smiled. How's Maria? And the house? Maria runs everything so efficiently I'm barely needed. She asks about you every day. Sends her love. His voice warm, talking about the older woman. The house is quiet without you. Too quiet. You could always hire another maid to knock over expensive vases. Not funny. A little funny. Emily. He said her name like a reprimand, but she heard the smile underneath. These moments were her favorite, when the weight lifted enough for him to sound almost normal. Almost happy. They talked for another 20 minutes about nothing important. Books she was reading to pass time. Updates on security improvements at the mansion. The weather, of all mundane things. It was ordinary and domestic, and Emily treasured every second because it felt like the life they might have when this was over. Finally, Nicholas said he had a meeting with Luca and needed to go. Emily said goodbye, trying not to let disappointment creep into her voice. The call ended. The safe house felt emptier than before. Emily returned to the window, watching snow accumulate on the trees. Somewhere out there, Nicholas was preparing for war, gathering evidence, coordinating allies, planning the political maneuvering that would bring down his enemies without firing another shot. It was brilliant and calculated, and completely foreign to the world she had grown up in, but it was his world. And if she wanted him, if she wanted the future he had promised, she needed to accept all of it. Not just the luxury and protection, but the danger and violence and moral complexity. Could she do that? Could she build a life with someone whose decisions involved things most people never had to consider? Who solved problems with methods that existed outside normal laws? Emily pressed her palm against the cold window glass. Yes, the answer came without hesitation. Because Nicholas wasn't just the dangerous figure people feared. He was also the man who had run into a blizzard to save her, who checked on her multiple times a day, who listened when she talked about her dead parents without trying to fix her grief, who made her feel safe and seen and valued in ways no one else ever had. The complexity was part of him. She couldn't separate the protective instincts from the capacity for violence, the gentleness from the ruthlessness. They existed together, balanced precariously, making him exactly who he was. And she loved him for all of it. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Love. Somewhere between coffee in his kitchen and emergency protocols and encrypted phone calls, she had fallen completely in love with Nicholas Grimaldiro. Emily laughed, the sound slightly hysterical in the empty safe house. Perfect timing. Stuck in the mountains with armed guards while he fought a war partially because of her. Very romantic. But it was true nonetheless. She loved him. Would wait however long necessary. Would come back to him when it was safe. Would build whatever life they could manage in his dangerous world. She just hoped he survived long enough for her to tell him. 7 days later, Nicholas sat at the head of a long table in a private room of a restaurant that closed to the public for occasions like this. Around him sat representatives from the 5 major families who controlled organized crime along the eastern seaboard. These were men who commanded empires, who decided fates with nods or silence, who had survived decades in a world where most died young. Nicholas had been attending these councils since he was 25, when his father died, and left him the Grimaldiro territories. 9 years of navigating alliances and conflicts, of learning when to push and when to retreat, of building respect through careful action rather than loud threats. Today he would use every lesson learned. Alessandro Bianchi sat 3 seats down, flanked by his lieutenants. The 'Ndrangheta boss was in his 50s, gray-haired and expensive-suited, with eyes that showed no remorse for anything he had ever done. He hadn't wanted to come. Nicholas knew that from intelligence reports. But refusing a council summons was itself a violation that would turn everyone against you. "Gentlemen," the mediator began. An elderly man named Vincent Costa, who belonged to no family, but was trusted by all. "We convene to address accusations brought by Nicholas Grimaldiro against Alessandro Bianchi and the 'Ndrangheta organization. Nicholas, present your case." Nicholas stood, pressing a button on the remote in his hand. The screen on the wall behind him lit up with security footage from the night of the attack. Armed men breaching his property, gunfire, the tactical precision that could only come from insider information. 3 weeks ago, 8 armed men attacked my residence. Nicholas began, voice calm and controlled. This was not random violence. This was coordinated assault using detailed intelligence about my security systems, staff schedules, and property layout. He clicked to the next slide. Photographs of Richard Caldwell meeting with known 'Ndrangheta soldiers. timestamps proving the meetings happened after Richard's termination from the mansion. The intelligence came from Richard Caldwell, my former house manager, who was terminated for endangering a staff member's life. Rather than accept his dismissal, Caldwell approached the 'Ndrangheta with an offer, information in exchange for their assistance in what he called teaching me a lesson. More photos. Surveillance of the attackers before the assault. Clear images of faces that matched known Bianchi employees. The attack violated 3 separate articles of our territorial agreements. Nicholas continued. Article 4. Residential properties are neutral ground. Article 7. Civilian staff are not legitimate targets. Article 12. Conflicts between families must be mediated through counsel before violent action. He turned to face Bianchi directly. Alessandro, you approved this attack knowing it violated our agreements. Your men specifically targeted non-combatant staff. One of your lieutenants coordinated with Caldwell to plan the breach. And you did all of this without bringing your grievance, whatever it may be, before this council first. Bianchi's expression remained neutral, but Nicholas saw the calculation in his eyes. I deny these accusations. What proof do you have that I authorized anything? Caldwell is a disgruntled former employee seeking revenge. Perhaps he acted independently. Nicholas had expected this. He clicked to the next slide. Wiretap transcripts. Audio recordings of Bianchi himself authorizing payment to Caldwell, discussing the attack timeline, planning how to exploit any intelligence gained. These recordings were obtained legally through surveillance warrants on known criminal activity, Nicholas said, which was partially true. They prove beyond doubt that you authorized, funded, and coordinated this attack. The room went silent. The other family representatives studied the evidence with expressions ranging from disapproval to calculation. Bianchi had crossed a line everyone recognized. If Nicholas's residence could be attacked without council approval, so could theirs. Vincent Costa reviewed the documents Nicholas provided. After several minutes, he looked up. Alessandro, you have opportunity to respond. Bianchi stood slowly. I may have had conversations with Caldwell about Nicholas's business practices. Perhaps money exchanged hands, but I never specifically authorized an attack on his residence. If my men exceeded my instructions, that's their failure, not mine. Your men who you selected, funded, and coordinated. Nicholas countered. Your personal phone appears in these recordings. Your authorization signature on payment transfers. You can claim ignorance, but the evidence contradicts you. Vincent looked around the table. The council must vote. All in favor of finding Alessandro Bianchi and the 'Ndrangheta organization in violation of territorial agreements. 4 hands raised immediately. Only Bianchi and his people abstained. Motion carries, Vincent said. Alessandro, you are sanctioned. You will immediately withdraw all 'Ndrangheta operations from the disputed port territories. You will pay reparations to Nicholas Grimaldairo in the amount of $5 million. And you will deliver Richard Caldwell into Nicholas's custody within 48 hours. Failure to comply will result in all families declaring you in breach, with consequences including but not limited to warfare, asset seizure, and excommunication from all protected territories. Bianchi's face went red, but he remained silent. The council had spoken. Fighting the decision would mean war with all 5 families simultaneously. No one survived that. Do you accept these terms? Vincent asked. Bianchi's jaw worked. Finally, he nodded once, sharp and angry. Accepted. Then this matter is closed pending compliance. We adjourn. As the room emptied, Luca appeared at Nicholas's side. That went better than expected. Bianchi's smart enough to know when he's beaten, Nicholas said, gathering his documents. He'll deliver Richard within 36 hours. He wants this over as much as we do. And then we make sure Richard Caldwell never threatens anyone again. Nicholas's expression hardened. Permanently, but legally. 31 hours later, a black van pulled up to a warehouse Nicholas controlled on the outskirts of the city. 4 of Bianchi's men dragged Richard Caldwell out, hands zip-tied behind his back, face bruised from what looked like recent persuasion. They deposited him on his knees in front of where Nicholas stood waiting with Luca and 3 security personnel. Delivered as promised, one of Bianchi's men said. We're done with this. They left without waiting for response. The warehouse door closed with echoing finality. Richard looked up at Nicholas with hatred burning in his eyes, despite his battered condition. "You think you've won. You think this is over." "I know it's over," Nicholas said calmly. He pulled out his phone, pressing a number. "Agent Morrison." "Yes, he's ready for transport." Richard's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" "Something I should have done 3 weeks ago." Nicholas pocketed his phone. "I have evidence of your involvement in coordinated attacks, conspiracy to commit murder, accessory to attempted kidnapping, and about 15 other charges that federal prosecutors are very interested in. I'm turning you over to them." "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Nicholas gestured to Luca, who produced a thick folder. "Financial records showing payments from Bianchi. Phone logs of your conversations coordinating the attack. Witness statements from the captured men who identified you. Security footage showing you at the scene during the assault. Take your pick." 3 black SUVs pulled up outside. Federal agents emerged, moving with practiced efficiency. They read Richard his rights, took custody without comment, and transported him away in less than 5 minutes. When they were gone, Luca turned to Nicholas. "I thought you'd want to handle him yourself, the old-fashioned way." "I did," Nicholas admitted, "but Emily asked me not to make this about revenge. Asked me to think strategically instead of emotionally." He watched the taillights disappear. She was right. This way, Richard spends the rest of his life in federal prison. No chance of escape, no martyrdom, no blood on my hands that could complicate things later. "She's good for you," Luca observed. "Makes you think before acting. She makes me want to be better." Nicholas started toward his own vehicle. "Get me to the helicopter. I have a call to make." 2 hours later, Emily's satellite phone rang. She grabbed it immediately. "It's done," Nicholas said without preamble. "Richard is in federal custody. Bianchi has withdrawn from contested territories. The council sanctioned the 'Ndrangheta publicly. It's over, Emily. You can come home." Emily's knees went weak with relief. She sank onto the couch, pressing one hand to her mouth. "Really? It's really over?" "Really." His voice softened. "Pack your things. I'm sending the helicopter to pick you up tomorrow morning. You'll be back at the mansion by afternoon." "Tomorrow," Emily breathed. "I can't believe it." "Believe it." She heard smile in his voice. "Your exile is officially ended. Time to come back where you belong." They talked for another hour, Nicholas filling in details of the council meeting and Richard's arrest. Emily told him about her relief, her anticipation, her absolute certainty that she was making the right choice coming back. When they finally said goodbye, Emily stood in the middle of the safe house and laughed with pure joy. 2.5 weeks of waiting, 2.5 weeks of isolation, 2.5 weeks of loving someone from a distance. Tomorrow she would see Nicholas again, would walk into the mansion that had become home, would start building whatever future they could create together in his complicated, dangerous, impossible world. And she couldn't wait. The helicopter touched down on the mansion's helipad at 2:30 in the afternoon. Emily could see the main house through the window, its familiar stone facade and elegant windows exactly as she remembered. Snow covered the grounds in pristine white, smoke curling from multiple chimneys into the pale winter sky. Home. The word resonated through her chest with certainty. The rotors slowed. The door opened. And there he was. Nicholas stood 20 feet away, hands in the pockets of his black coat, dark hair windswept, eyes locked on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. He didn't move, didn't smile, just watched her with an expression that held everything he couldn't say in front of the guards and pilot. Emily climbed out, legs slightly unsteady after the flight. The moment her feet hit solid ground, Nicholas closed the distance between them. No hesitation, no concern for appearances. He pulled her into his arms, one hand cradling the back of her head, the other wrapped firmly around her waist. "You're here," he said against her hair. "You're really here." Emily pressed her face into his chest, breathing him in. Coffee and expensive cologne, and something uniquely him that she had missed desperately. "I'm here." They stood like that for long moments, neither willing to let go first. Finally, Nicholas pulled back enough to look at her face, his hands moving to frame her cheeks. His thumbs brushed across her skin like he was confirming she was real. How was the flight? Long. Beautiful. I don't care. Emily laughed slightly. I just want to go inside, see Maria, sleep in a real bed, not think about armed guards for at least 24 hours. Nicholas smiled, the expression transforming his usually serious face. That can be arranged. He kept one arm around her as they walked toward the house, her bag carried by security who maintained respectful distance. The back entrance opened before they reached it. Maria stood in the doorway, her face crumpling the moment she saw Emily. Mija! The older woman rushed forward, pulling Emily from Nicholas's embrace into her own. Gracias a Dios, you're home safe. Emily hugged her back fiercely, unexpected tears springing to her eyes. I missed you so much. We missed you too. The house has been too quiet without you. Maria pulled back, examining Emily's face critically. You look tired, thin. I'm making you a proper meal tonight. No arguments. I wouldn't dare argue with you, Maria. The housekeeper beamed, then seemed to remember Nicholas standing nearby. She stepped back, composure returning. Mr. Grimaldiro, should I prepare the guest suite? No need. I'll show Emily to her permanent quarters. Nicholas's hand found the small of Emily's back. We'll be down for dinner at 7. Maria's knowing smile suggested she understood more than was being said. Of course, sir. I'll have something special prepared. Nicholas guided Emily through familiar hallways that somehow looked different now. Brighter, maybe. More welcoming. They climbed the main staircase where everything had started with a broken vase and cruel punishment. Emily's hand trailed along the banister, remembering that night while simultaneously feeling how far she had come since. But Nicholas didn't take her to the guest suite, or even the wing where her room had been. Instead, he led her to a part of the mansion she had never accessed before, a set of double doors made of dark wood with subtle carvings. He opened them to reveal a glass-enclosed winter garden. Emily's breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 3 sides overlooked the estate's grounds. Snow-covered gardens stretched in every direction, trees heavy with white, the distant mountains creating a stunning backdrop. Inside, the space was warm despite the glass walls. Comfortable furniture arranged around a central fireplace, bookshelves along one wall, plants thriving in the controlled environment, a telescope pointed toward the sky. This is my private space, Nicholas said quietly. I don't bring people here. Ever. Emily understood the significance. This was his sanctuary, the place he retreated when the weight of his world became too much. And he was sharing it with her. It's beautiful, she whispered. Nicholas closed the doors behind them, sealing them in warmth and privacy. I wanted somewhere neutral, somewhere that isn't your room or mine, somewhere we could just talk without roles or expectations. Emily turned to face him, seeing vulnerability in his expression that he rarely allowed. Okay, let's talk. He moved closer slowly, giving her space to retreat if she wanted. She didn't. When he stopped inches away, the air between them felt charged with everything unspoken over weeks of separation. I've been thinking, Nicholas began, about what I want to say when you came back, rehearsing it in my head during meetings and strategy sessions, and every moment I wasn't actively focused on eliminating threats. And what did you want to say? That these past weeks were torture. His hand rose to her face, fingers gentle against her cheek. Worse than any negotiation I've endured. Worse than any physical threat I've faced. Because you were somewhere I couldn't see you, couldn't protect you directly, couldn't just walk down the hall and confirm you were safe. Emily leaned into his touch. I was safe. Your team was excellent. I know. Logically, I knew that. Nicholas's other hand found her waist, drawing her closer. But logic doesn't help when every instinct is screaming to go to you. When work feels meaningless because the person I want to share it with is hundreds of miles away. When I realized that somewhere in the past few months, you became the most important thing in my life. Emily's heart hammered. Nicholas, let me finish. He took a breath, clearly gathering courage. I told you before that when this was over, I would ask you something. That I wanted you to choose this life, this world, me, with full understanding of what it means. I remember. I'm asking now. His dark eyes held hers with unwavering intensity. Not as your employer, or the person who saved you, or someone you're grateful to. I'm asking as a man who has fallen completely, irrevocably in love with you, as someone who wants you in his life not temporarily but permanently, as a partner, a companion, someone who chooses to stay, despite knowing exactly how complicated and dangerous my world can be. The words landed like physical blows, each one resonating through Emily's chest. Love. He loved her, was asking her to build a real life with him, was offering everything despite having every reason to keep walls up forever. I'm not offering you easy, Nicholas continued. I can't promise normal dates or simple happiness. My world will always have edges and shadows. There will always be threats, always be situations that require difficult choices. But I can promise you'll never face any of it alone, that I will protect you with everything I have, that you matter more to me than territories or power or any of it. Emily reached up, placing both hands on his chest, feeling his heart racing beneath her palms. I made my choice weeks ago, Nicholas. Maybe even months ago, back when you first carried me in from the snow. I've been waiting for you to catch up. Emily, I love you. The words came out strong, certain. Not because you saved me or gave me a job or kept me safe. I love you because of who you are when the armor comes down. Because you listen when I talk about my parents. Because you ran into a blizzard in your socks. Because you're trying to be better than the world you were born into while still surviving in it. Because you make me feel valued and seen and chosen in ways I never imagined. Nicholas's grip on her tightened. You understand what you're choosing? Really understand? Yes. I'm choosing you, your world, your complexity, your dangerous life, and the man you are within it. All of it. Emily moved closer until no space remained between them. I'm not afraid of the shadows, Nicholas. Not if you're there with me. Something broke in his expression, the last barrier crumbling. His forehead dropped to rest against hers, eyes closing as he breathed her in. I don't deserve you. Probably not, Emily said with a small smile. But you're stuck with me anyway. Nicholas laughed, the sound rough with emotion. Then he was kissing her. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was months of restraint breaking. Weeks of separation ending. Everything unspoken finally finding expression. His mouth moved against hers with hunger tempered by reverence. One hand tangled in her hair, while the other pulled her flush against him. Emily's fingers curled into his shirt, holding on, kissing him back with everything she felt. Time stopped meaning anything. There was just this, his taste, his warmth, the solid strength of him surrounding her. The way he kissed her like she was precious and necessary, and entirely his. The way she felt safe and wanted and home in his arms. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Nicholas kept her close. His thumb traced her swollen bottom lip with devastating gentleness. Stay with me, he said quietly. Not in the guest room. Not as an employee with separate quarters. Stay with me. Emily's answer was to kiss him again. The months that followed brought changes both subtle and significant. Emily's position shifted from assistant house manager to something that defied easy categorization. She worked with Maria on household operations, but also began involvement in the legitimate business ventures that comprised half of Nicholas's empire. Import operations, real estate holdings, investment portfolios. The legal side that balanced the illegal. She enrolled in online business administration courses through a respected university, studying at night in the winter garden that had become their shared space. Nicholas often worked beside her, both of them comfortable in companionable silence broken by occasional questions or observations. Maria continued running the household with impressive efficiency, but her relationship with Emily deepened into something genuinely maternal. The older woman offered advice on navigating Nicholas's world, shared stories from 15 years of observing him grow from a young man thrust into power to the person he was now, and treated Emily's presence as the best thing that could have happened. The household staff adapted quickly. Some because they genuinely respected Emily and saw how she made their normally intense boss actually smile. Others because they recognized the shift in dynamics and knew better than to cause problems. But respect became genuine over time, as Emily proved herself capable, fair, and willing to work alongside them, rather than above them. 2 months after her return, Nicholas hosted a formal dinner for his business associates. Emily wore a dress the color of deep wine, elegant and understated, chosen with Maria's help. She stood beside Nicholas as he introduced her formally. "This is Emily Turner," he said to the assembled group of powerful, dangerous men. "My partner in every sense of the word. She is under my complete protection and should be treated with the same respect you show me. Any disrespect toward her is disrespect toward me. I trust we all understand what that means." The message was clear. Emily was untouchable, an extension of Nicholas himself. Harming her would bring his full wrath down on whoever was foolish enough to try. The men nodded, understanding perfectly. Several approached her throughout the evening, polite and careful, treating her like the valued partner Nicholas had declared her to be. Emily handled each interaction with grace, years of working customer service jobs giving her skills in reading people and navigating social situations. Watching her from across the room, Nicholas felt pride and possessiveness mixed with the love that had become his constant companion. She fit into his world better than he had dared hope, brought light to corners that had been dark too long, made him want to be worthy of the choice she had made. Later that night, alone in their shared quarters, Emily found a small box on her pillow. Inside was a key. "To everywhere," Nicholas said from the doorway. "No locked doors, no restricted areas. This is your home as much as mine now." Emily crossed to him, key clutched in her hand, and kissed him with gratitude she couldn't put into words. Winter turned to spring, turned to summer. Emily's courses progressed. The businesses ran smoothly. Threats emerged and were handled with the efficiency Nicholas had perfected over years. Life found a rhythm that felt sustainable despite its complexity. Maria watched them together with satisfaction. The way Nicholas's face softened when Emily entered a room. The way Emily laughed at his dry observations. The way they moved around each other with unconscious synchronization. This was what the cold mansion had needed all along. Life. Love. Purpose beyond power. Fall arrived with changing leaves and crisp air. Emily celebrated her 20th birthday with a quiet dinner, just her and Nicholas and Maria, exactly how she wanted it. No grand gestures, just the people who mattered most. Then December came again. A full year since that night in the blizzard. Emily stood at the base of the main staircase on Christmas Eve, looking up at the banister where everything had started. The mansion was decorated beautifully again, every surface sparkling with holiday spirit. But this year felt different. This year she wasn't a nervous maid trying to avoid Richard's criticism. This year, she was home. "Need help with that?" Nicholas appeared beside her, gesturing to the final garland she was supposed to weave through the upper banister. He wore jeans and a dark sweater, casual and relaxed in a way he rarely allowed anyone else to see. "I've got it," Emily said, starting up the stairs. "The last time you said that, you broke a priceless vase and nearly died." Emily laughed, pausing to look back at him. "Are you ever going to let me live that down?" "Never." But he climbed the stairs behind her, positioning himself to hold the ladder she didn't actually need. "I'm just here for moral support." "Moral support," Emily repeated, grinning as she wove the garland through. "Is that what we're calling it? And to catch you if you fall." My hero. They worked together in comfortable quiet, Emily decorating while Nicholas steadied things and handed her supplies. When she reached for the final piece, a golden star meant for the very top, Nicholas caught her hand. "Wait," he said. Emily looked down at him, confused. He was staring at her left hand with an expression she couldn't quite read. Then she realized. A ring circled her fourth finger where there had been nothing that morning. Platinum, elegant and understated, with a deep blue sapphire catching the light. Her breath stopped. "Nicholas?" He climbed the last few steps until they were level, his hand still holding hers. "I had a whole speech planned. Maria helped me rehearse it. But now that the moment is here, I don't remember any of it." Emily stared at the ring, then at him, heart racing. Are you asking you to marry me?" Nicholas finished. "Properly, officially, with a ring and a question, and the hope that you'll say yes even though I'm doing this on a staircase which probably isn't romantic at all." "It's perfect," Emily whispered. "It's exactly right. This is where everything started, where you broke my vase and I nearly lost you. Nicholas brought her hand to his lips, kissing just above the ring, where the worst night led to the best thing in my life. It seemed appropriate to make it where I ask you to make this permanent. Yes. The word came out without hesitation. Yes, I'll marry you. Absolutely, yes. Nicholas's smile transformed his entire face. He pulled her into a kiss right there on the stairs, both of them laughing against each other's mouths, the golden star forgotten in Emily's other hand. From the entrance hall below, Maria stood watching with tears streaming down her face and a smile that could have lit the entire mansion. This was what she had hoped for when she saw them together that first week. Two broken people finding wholeness in each other. Two lonely souls creating family. Love blooming in a house that had forgotten what it felt like. Told you, she whispered to herself, dabbing at her eyes with her apron. I knew from the beginning. That night, after the star was finally placed and the decorations complete, Emily and Nicholas stood in the winter garden watching snow fall gently outside. Her hand rested in his, the sapphire ring catching firelight. Any regrets? Nicholas asked quietly. About what? Choosing this life. This world. Me. Emily turned to face him fully, bringing his hand to her heart. Not a single one. You gave me more than I ever imagined possible. A home, a family. Love that feels safe and real and permanent. How could I regret any of that? My world is still dangerous, and we'll face it together. She rose on her toes, kissing him softly. That's what partners do. Nicholas held her close, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the steady beat of her heart against his chest. A year ago, he had been alone in this mansion, isolated by choice and circumstance, convinced that safety meant distance and control meant never letting anyone close. Then a clumsy, kind, resilient girl had stumbled into his life by breaking something expensive, had survived his world's cruelty and chosen to stay anyway, had loved him despite every reason not to, had transformed everything simply by existing. Thank you, he said against her hair. For what? For choosing me. For staying. For making me believe I could have this. Emily pulled back to look at him, seeing the vulnerability in his dark eyes, the genuine wonder that she had said yes. I'll choose you every day, Nicholas. For the rest of my life. That's what this ring means. Outside, snow continued falling. Inside, in the winter garden of the Grimaldiro mansion, two people who had saved each other held tight to the future they would build together. Complicated and dangerous and imperfect, but theirs. Completely, irrevocably theirs. And exactly 1 year after the worst night of Emily Turner's life, she celebrated the best decision she had ever made, saying yes to the man she loved, saying yes to the life they would share, saying yes to forever in a world she had chosen with eyes wide open and heart completely willing. Maria was right. This house had needed life and love. Now it had both in abundance. And the story that began with a broken vase and a blizzard ended with a ring, a promise, and two people who had found home in each other.